at these happy North Koreans performing a new song on North Korean TV. Without knowing the lyrics, what do you think they are celebrating? I would guess National Unity Day, Independence Day, or maybe Workers' Day. But in reality, these clips and some are entirely dedicated to the youngest dictator in the world. And here's another one, the 38th parallel. This is the unofficial name of one of the most terrifying borders in history between South and North Korea. During the mid-20th century, up to 4 million people lost their lives here, marking the beginning of one of the most influential families, not only in Korea, but in the world. Today, the 38th parallel is just a border like any other, guarded by soldiers. But there's a twist. North Korean soldiers' first duty isn't to protect their family, it's to protect the nation's leader, Kim Jong Un. Why did Kim Jong Un become the head of state? How did he study in Switzerland? What is his profession? How much does he weigh? Why does he wear glasses? Who pampers him? And who does he pamper? All the juiciest details about this basketball-loving, missile-obsessed figure. Let's dive in. No matter how much you browse the internet or dig through archives, there's no reliable information about the birth of the North Korean leader. Official party records claim Kim Jong Un was born on January 8, 1982, but this date is likely a fake. It was only announced in 2009. Before that, Japanese sources reported that Kim was a year younger. The date was allegedly adjusted to align with his ancestors. Kim in 1982, his father in 1942, and his grandfather in 1912. A legendary connection between generations. All we know about Kim's mother is her name, Ko Young-hwae, and that she was a successful ballerina who became the third wife of Kim Jong-il, Kim's father. Speaking of Kim Jong-il, he was born in the Khabarovsk region of the USSR. In his childhood, Kim Jong-il called his son the Morning Star King and treated him exceptionally well despite the family having 2 older sons and 1 daughter. Kim Jong-un studied in Switzerland for 4 years under the name Pak Un, allegedly posing as the son of a North Korean embassy worker. Before joining a regular class, young Kim studied in a German-focused program. He learned English, French, and art in school, perhaps to design beautiful missiles like the ones in The Dictator. Classmates described him as a reserved but short-tempered child who was an obsessive basketball fan. He would spend entire days sketching his idol Michael Jordan's face. He also loved Jean-Claude Van Damme films Ben-Hur Dracula and James Bond action movies. Despite the language barrier with the Swiss dialect, he got along with peers but could be very aggressive. On the basketball court, teachers noted his friendliness and ability to learn, though he wasn't exceptionally talented. Understandable. Really, who would focus on school with Disneyland nearby? As a dictator's child, Kim skied in the Alps and visited Disneyland Paris. But besides the bodyguards, there was another important figure in his life, his aunt. Information about Kim's childhood is strictly classified, and most details we know come from his aunt. She looked after him in Switzerland for 2 years before seeking asylum at the U.S. Embassy in Geneva. She was later relocated to Germany and then to the United States on a military plane. There, she shared photos and stories, but refrained from revealing anything provocative, knowing that North Korean intelligence could find her even in the U.S. The CIA bought her a house, and she opened a dry cleaning business. Kim wasn't the first family member to study abroad. His older brother did too. During his time in Europe, Kim developed a deep love for their cuisine, especially Swiss cheese and rosti, Swiss-style hash browns. Rumor has it, he had a full-blown cheese addiction, surviving on fondue and raclette. Years later, he sent North Korean chefs to France to learn the art of cheesemaking. In 2014, he disappeared from public life briefly due to an Emmental cheese overdose. Amusingly, he also loves American capitalist staples like burgers and French fries. In adulthood, he developed a taste for Cristal champagne, Hennessy cognac coffee, and cigarettes, all hallmarks of the luxurious European lifestyle. At just 6 years old, Kim was already participating in official ceremonies. One day, he and his older brother were waiting for their father, Kim Jong-il, in a playroom at the royal residence. The boys were dressed in military uniforms with crescent-shaped hats and gold star epaulets. They looked like tiny generals. When their father entered the room, they stood at attention like soldiers to greet him. Their chubby faces were solemn. Kim Jong-il was pleased and decided to introduce his children to officials and staff before heading to the dining room. Everyone lined up to greet the little princes. By the way, the childhood of this slay dictator wasn't much different from a 1990s kid's dream in USA. Super Mario games on Sony consoles, huge playrooms filled with Lego, toy guns, and and even realistic-looking plastic bullets. Little Kim even had a real car and a real gun. While the North Korean people were starving his father, Kim Jong Un had a special car designed for his 7-year-old son and gave him a .45 caliber Colt pistol, which Kim carried at age 11. But the Kim dynasty was not always as powerful. Kim Jong-un's great-great-grandfather, Kim Bo-hyun, was an ordinary farmer. During the day, he collected manure around the village to feed his family, and at night, he made straw sandals by candlelight. For obvious reasons, North Korea doesn't like to talk about this. Then came the fateful day, December 17th, 2011. Kim Jong-il the father passed away. The question arose, who would take his place? There were 2 older brothers and a sister to consider. The oldest brother, Kim Jong-nam, became an outcast within his own family immediately after his birth in 1971. He was the son of Kim Jong-il's ex-wife, an actress whom his grandfather Kim Il-sung strongly disapproved of. Kim Jong-nam was sent abroad and eventually settled there. In 2001, he was detained at the Japanese border with a fake Dominican passport. Ultimately, Kim Jong-nam began openly criticizing the North Korean government. In 2010, he told Japanese reporters that he did not approve of the hereditary transfer of power. She happens. He moved to China, believing it would provide him protection. However, he often traveled to other countries, including Malaysia. In February 2017, at the airport in Malaysia's capital, 2 women approached him, one from Indonesia and the other from Vietnam. They performed the same actions on Kim Jong-nam's face, covering his eyes with one hand and running the other across his lips. Both quickly fled, hurrying to wash their hands. Because their hands were covered with poison, the women were arrested but did not plead guilty. They admitted that North Koreans had asked them to touch Kim Jong-nam's face, but they claimed they thought it was all part of a harmless prank. They believed their hands had been smeared with an ordinary lotion. Both women were acquitted. But the story didn't end there. Later, the police announced they had identified 4 more people involved in the murder. All were North Korean citizens who had entered the country shortly before the assassination and left immediately afterward. Interestingly, the perpetrators used flights through Russia to return home. However, Russia refused to cooperate with South Korea, which had requested information about these North Korean citizens. The second brother, Kim Jong-chol, now lives in North Korea and plays in his own musical band. He never cared about politics. Initially, he was considered the main successor, but he declined due to his weak character. As for the sister, why have a woman leader when there's a man available, right? You get the idea. Though the sister does occasionally appear alongside her younger brother. That younger brother is Kim Jong-un. It is said that their father chose him as the leader because of his physical resemblance to the founder of North Korea and his grandfather Kim Il-sung. So 11 days after his father's death, Kim Jong-un became the world's youngest dictator, 29 years old, or maybe 28 or even 27. As they mentioned, no one really knows for sure. He became the leader of a country that had recently experienced famine with bizarre laws and customs. But under Kim Jong-un, some reforms were introduced, resulting in a situation where people no longer starve to death. Now, they merely go underfed. Kim Jong-un has a great relationship with his sister, until the recent public appearances of the leader's daughter. South Korean experts believe that Kim Yo-jong was the second most powerful person in the country. She is expected to take over if Kim Jong-un faces serious health issues. As a result, Kim Yo-jong holds one of the key positions in North Korea. She regularly makes bold and harsh statements on various issues and is possibly in charge of the country's entire diplomatic operations. It is known that Kim Yo-jong was born on September 27, 1987. She likely has a husband and child, but they are kept hidden from the world. As for Kim Jong-un's wife, we know as much about her as we do about whether the final season of Game of Thrones will be rewritten or if Trump will stop the war in Ukraine. In other words, nothing. Her date of birth? Take 3 guesses. Unknown. Her father was a professor and her mother worked as a doctor. At least she has appeared in public. We should be grateful for that. North Korea's dictator is believed to have 3 children ranging in age from 3 to 10 years old. However, the names of 2 of them are unknown, as is the gender of the youngest child. Recently, his daughter Kim Joo-ae, who is thought to be about 10 years old, has frequently appeared in public with her father, most recently at the test launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile on March 16th. What did you think they were strolling through a North Korean toy store together? Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un is busy hanging out with his colleagues. That's why this young girl is now considered the main heir to lead a nuclear power, the first ever female leader in North Korea's history. By the time this theoretically happens, I'll be grandpa. Huh? Touching. Well, we'll see. Kim Jong-un herself lives with her siblings in the same kind of luxury her father once enjoyed. Swimming pools, water slides, soccer fields, tennis courts, and a sports stadium. It's believed she's homeschooled in Pyongyang, and her hobbies include horseback riding, swimming, and skiing. Fun fact, remember how I mentioned Kim's love for basketball? The world only learned about Kim Jong-un after Dennis Rodman, the former basketball star, revealed that he held Kim Jong-un's baby during a visit to Korea in 2013. He even called Kim Jong Un a good dad, but they really call North Korea's dictator a good family man. Hardly. There are way too many rumors online about the North Korean pop star Hyun Song-wol, who allegedly has an illegitimate child with Kim Jong-un. She frequently appears in Pyongyang alongside Kim and now works in his personal secretariat. In 2012, Kim founded the girl group Moranbong, currently the most famous in North Korea. The girls always perform in military uniforms. They even represented the country at the Olympics in South Korea. And of course, the leader personally selects the soloists. Most of the songs are dedicated to him. You might ask, Nick, how do you become as cruel and North Korean dictator? I'll explain. Let's take a peek under the hood of this North Korean Tom Cruise, a private jet. Kim even pilots it himself sometimes. Tons of alcohol. Recently, he demanded the US lift sanctions on luxury alcohol imports and designer suits before resuming disarmament talks. Stylish suits. Style is key. On most official occasions, Kim wears unique exclusive suits, often pinstriped, and occasionally a cream-colored suit with sandals. You'll often spot a pin featuring his grandfather and father on his jacket. Nothing unusual there, but when it's time to make decisions or launch a missile or two, Kim transforms into North Korea's Tom Cruise. The abundance of sunglasses, regular glasses, watches, hats, all part of his carefully curated style. Watches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from pricey to more budget-friendly. For instance, this model can be bought for $700. But Kim doesn't just love wearing watches, he just giving them away too. In 2016, he played Santa by gifting Swiss watches to his most loyal generals. And in 2013, following his father's tradition, he sent a kilogram of candy to every child in the country for his birthday. A smart move to earn their loyalty of the next generation. It's clear Kim won't be traveling to Switzerland anytime soon, so he decided to build Switzerland in North Korea instead. Instead of investing in the economy, he put millions into tourism by opening ski resorts across the country. Honestly, not a bad idea. I even mentioned in my 101 facts about North Korea last year that I'd love to visit it, but it's not cheap. North Korea could easily become one of the most hyped destinations if it opened it up and became safer. Everyone would rush to see it, but right now, let's be real, it's still a closed off and a complex country. Plus, apart from the elite, locals can't afford those ski resorts.
Say, ooh.
Now let's talk about where the Supreme Leader lives. When you think Supreme Leader, you probably picture something grand. Well, you're not wrong. Luxurious homes connected by tunnels to the main palace. Now that's paradise. Speaking of paradise, don't forget there is no religion in North Korea except for Duce, the country's ideology. Instead of God, they worship the Supreme Leader. Don't get it twisted. Interestingly, one thing that unites dictators like Stalin and Kim Jong-un is their love for a ridiculous number of vacation homes. While Kim trails Stalin a bit, he still owns 17 palaces scattered across North Korea, including one with its own 500-meter runway. His seaside mansion even has a shooting range, a theater, and a harbor for his luxury yacht, a British-made princess worth millions. Sure, people criticize him for owning a yacht while the population struggles, but let's be real, it's just a basic yacht by billionaire standards. Millionaires would laugh at calling it luxuries. And we haven't even mentioned his residences. The main one is in Pyongyang, the capital. The palace is nuclear attack-proof and guarded by multiple military units, electric fences, and even minefields. Speaking of luxury, did you know Kim has a party residence just like P. Diddy? Former NBA player Dennis Rodman visited a private island in 2013, calling it Kim's Paradise, and comparing it to Ibiza or Hawaii, except Kim is the only one living there. While Kim owns a private jet, he arrived in Russia in 2023 on his iconic armored train, a pretty dramatic entrance. But what's even more impressive is when his armored Mercedes rolls out of the train. This is really an epic move. Foreign cars are banned in North Korea, so they strip off identifying marks. But we know that's a Maybach, a Rolls-Royce, or maybe even a Lexus. And yes, you might even spot a Lada Priora, since Russia sold sold a few hundred of them to North Korea. Thanks to his bromance with Putin, Kim also owns a brand new Urus. There are tons of myths about North Korea because it's the most closed-off country in the world. Most of our info comes from defectors. Like in the late 2000s, South Korea produced documentaries featuring defectors. One woman talked about being recruited into the infamous Pleasure Brigade. The brigade has about 2,000 women selected at ages 15 to 17 for their beauty, slim figures, and height. They're sent to China to learn dance, massage, and hospitality before being assigned to one of three groups. Manjokjo, private services if you catch my drift. Happiness Brigade provides massages for officers and officials. Gamjo performs at festivals and events. They work for 10 years serving Kim and the elite. Surprisingly, it's a prestigious gig lifting girls and their families from poverty to the middle or upper class. Kim Jong Un's net worth is estimated at $5 billion, with several billion stashed in offshore accounts. Experts say he spent at least $500 million on imported goods like musical instruments, alcohol, luxury items, and even a seaplane in 2017. And let's not forget his passion for purebred horses. According to Russian customs, he spent over $584,000 on 138 purebred horses between 2010 and 2019. Propaganda often shows Kim riding a white stallion through snowy mountains to project confidence. It sparked so many memes you could die laughing. Kim's true love, though, is military toys. He once blew up a BMW to demonstrate the power of his drones. As a kid, Kim was obsessed with mechanical gadgets, especially model ships and planes. He'd experiment with them all night and even call experts at dawn if something didn't work. Let's shift gears to Kim as a leader. He has a buddy-buddy relationship with Putin, and apparently they don't mind sharing a drink after a tough day of dictatorship. His ties with China's leader are also solid. He's even visited Beijing with his wife for talks. One of his most famous meetings was with South Korea's president in 2018, where they planted a pine tree as a gesture of improved relations. But let's not forget, that same year, the doomsday clock hit 120 seconds to midnight due to North Korea's nuclear tests. During this meeting, people analyzed Kim's body language. He smiled constantly, a PR move for the cameras, and mimicked the body language of whoever he was speaking with. As for the US, it's North Korea's sworn enemy. His meeting with Trump wasn't just awkward, it was shocking. Afterward, Kim reportedly executed a general by tossing him into a piranha tank, a method he allegedly got from a James Bond movie. Defections continue, even among top officials. In 2016, North Korea's ambassador to the UK, Tae Yong-ho, fled after 30 years of service. By 2020, he became the first North Korean defector elected to South Korea's parliament. Kim Jong Un can be emotional too. He cried over disappointing birth rate reports and shed tears thanking soldiers for their role in defeating COVID-19. By the way, did you know Kim Jong Un is a trained programmer? Yes, after his time in Switzerland, he started at Kim Il-sung Military Academy as a recognized programmer. He tries to control every aspect of the country and attend as many events as possible. Want to stay updated? Check out North Korea's official website. The homepage always features team's latest achievement. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and write a comment. And 5, 4, 3, 2,